Mr. Longo. I want to ask you about some cryptocurrency issues. So, what exactly is ASIC's role here in relation to these matters? Are you a lawmaker? Are you a law enforcement agency? How do you understand your role?
Well, we're a law enforcement agency. Our job is to administer the law as it is. It's certainly to contribute to public discussion and dialogue, work with Treasury, stakeholders and government if there's going to be any law reform. The position we've taken in recent times is there are actually a lot of crypto products that are actually financial products or financial services. And you will have noted, Senator, that there have been a number of court cases that ASIC has launched in the last 12 to 18 months. And our rationale for that is to, in effect, to test the regulatory perimeter and to basically say to the industry, this is not entirely unregulated. There's existing law which can apply to this activity.
So what is regulated and what is unregulated?
Well, if it's a financial product, we regulate it. If it's a financial service, we regulate it. If it's not, we don't. The difficulty is that there are grey areas, and what we're seeing is the financialisation of a number of crypto products that there's some aspects of the industry that think, oh, well, it's crypto, it's not regulated. That's not really correct. But we've issued an information sheet where we've tried to explain to industry, because we work very closely with industry, as you would expect, to explain where the line might be drawn and when they might need a licence. I know Commissioner Kirkland in particular has done some intense work in that area, because we're looking at publishing for a form of consultation updated guidance or in our information sheet, which will take into account, although the law itself hasn't changed, what has changed is market developments and what we've learned from court judgments. So, that in a nutshell is what's going on.
I think, so this is information sheet 225 you're referring to?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I think that is.
Okay, so before you answer that, so I guess the context for some of this is, so you said, Mr. Longo, back in 2021 that crypto investors were on their own, end quote. Now, you've just said that there are some crypto products or concepts which could be inside the existing law, but there are others that are unregulated.
Well, I think the two key points are that from the beginning of assuming my current role, I made it utterly clear to all consumers that investing in these activities is highly risky and people need to be really cautious, and I maintain that position.
Okay, so
secondly, let me finish. Secondly, I've never suggested that this activity is entirely unregulated. It is largely unregulated, but if it's a financial product or service, then it is.
That's fine. So your position is it's largely unregulated?
I think that's a fair statement. I mean, it's a complex area with financial products and services regulation. I think it's fair to say, broadly speaking, that the current regime doesn't cover all of the manifestations of this activity. I think it's fair to say.
As you know, Parliament's job is to make rules and your job is to enforce them. So the Parliament has not been able to pass rules in this term for reasons which we don't need to go into today. But the reality is that the Parliament hasn't done its job, hasn't been able to land on rules. So you are effectively trying to regulate what the Parliament has been able to land in prior parliaments. And you're now proposing to give, and just to make it into a question,
sure,
because this is question and answers, not statements from me. So I guess the question is then, your guidance then, I imagine, will be based around the application of the existing statute. Is that right?
Yes. Can we just step back here? The approach we're taking with crypto, if I may say so, is no different to the approach we're taking with many areas of our regulatory responsibility. So this is a fast-moving area. We published an information sheet some time ago. There have been some developments in the market. We've had some case law. We're getting a lot of feedback from the market that they would like more certainty about when they need a licence and when they don't. And so the approach we're taking with crypto is, I think, sophisticated approach to regulation. And we're taking the same approach, a whole range of areas where, as time goes by, our understanding of how the legislation works, we get market reactions, and then we update our thinking. Yeah.
I think what's important here is that you don't overplay your role and you don't step into the shoes of the legislature.
Well, I think that's always a fundamental principle. The legislation we administer is extraordinarily complex and wide-ranging. So we have a lot of experience in where to draw the line. You'll appreciate, Senator, that there are a lot of aspects of the Corps Act where we have the power to modify its operation. The industry expects us to publish guidance and information sheets. So we're very respectful, obviously, of the role of Parliament, but there's a huge expectation on ASIC that when we administer the law, we do so in a helpful way and give people some guidance as to where we think we have an expectation they need a licence. So putting all that back to crypto, you can see the direction of travel. Commissioner, I might ask Commissioner Kirkland to just, because I know you've been a bit much closer to
dealing with the timetable as well as part of your contribution, please, Mr. Kirkland.
Yeah.
The timetable for
releasing your information sheet.
We're expecting to do that before the end of this calendar year at this stage. But just to repeat something the Chair said, that will be a draft information sheet on which we'll be seeking comment. I think because of the issues that the Chair has noted, this is an area where the products and services continue to evolve, where we're applying law that was drafted before digital assets started to exist. So we see it as valuable to put out some draft guidance in that information sheet and seek views from a range of stakeholders, including industry, and we'll consider those views before we issue a final version of the information sheet, which would be sometime during the course of next year at this stage, I expect.
Yeah, and who's mainly working on this?
We have a small team working on digital assets issues within ASIC.
So who's leading it?
I believe that's our Senior Executive Leader, Rhys Bolam.
Okay. And what's he up to this week?
I'm not certain, Senator.
Okay. Is he here in Australia?
I don't know, I'm sorry, Senator.
You don't know what he's doing? Does he report to you?
No, sorry. No staff report directly to Commissioners.
Okay, who does he report to?
He would report...
No staff report to Commissioners?
Not other than to the
me.
Chair as responsible authority. We have a different role under the statute. To answer your question, Mr Boland reports to Calissa Aldridge, who's the Executive Director Markets.
Okay. And do you know whether he's in the country this week?
I'm sorry, Senator, I'm not aware of that, but maybe I'll get you an answer during the course of the hearing.
Anyone else know?
If that's a question, Senator, that can't be answered, I'm sure the officials will be happy to take it on notice.
Their obligation is to provide the information if they know.
I understand he's at a fintech conference in Singapore.
Okay. He's at a fintech conference in Singapore?
Yes.
Okay. Is that funded by the taxpayer?
It's funded by ASIC, yes.
Funded by ASIC. Can you just provide on notice the costs associated with that?
Of course.
Thank you. Okay, so that will be released as a pre-Christmas event, will it?
That's our plan at this stage.
Okay. Have you been able to consult with the Minister's office on that?
We wouldn't normally consult with the Minister's office in relation to a draft regulatory guidance, and we haven't on this occasion.
Even though the government's stated policy for, I think it's been in office now for more than 2.5 years, has been to regulate crypto. So you're saying that you put out an information sheet in relation to how the existing law might apply to crypto, which the Chair has just said is marginal, and you wouldn't talk to the government of the day about it?
We would talk to Treasury as part of that process, just so we understand the issues that it's working on. But we wouldn't typically, given our role as an independent regulator, we wouldn't typically consult with the Minister in relation to regulatory guidance.
But don't you have like a government relations function?
We do.
ASIC? Yeah, and so what does that do then?
The typical, the Chair may wish to answer this, but it's the typical functions of a government relations function, which includes correspondence with members of Parliament and senators.
Okay. But you don't talk about issues that might impact upcoming legislation?
Sorry, I'm not sure. With whom, Senator?
I'm just curious that you're proposing to issue guidance on existing statute where there is a large public debate about regulating this particular sector, and you're saying to me that as an agency, which is quite unusual in that it has a government relations function, doesn't even talk to the government of the day about something like that.
I think the officials explained.
I'm not asking you. I'm asking the official.
The way that it works typically in this
I'll
joint
wait till you
is,
filibuster and I'll ask the official.
Senator Bragg, be polite.
Look, if you want to behave like that, I suppose it's a matter for you. What I was going to point out is that the officials explained to you that ASIC's got a job to do. It's got an independent statutory function. And it would be surprising if it played that role in a different kind of way to the way that the officials described. The government will consider all of these developments when it produces legislation on this question. I see your implied criticism of the government's approach over the course of the last 2 years. There's not any progress.
Made no progress
over the course of the preceding decade either, Senator Bragg.
When you were in the Senate now.
When you were representing some of these interests outside the Parliament.
Well, if you knew about this, you know there's a bill in the Senate now.
It's not.
It's the filibuster.
All right. Well, I think you're contributing to that, Senator Bragg. So we'll let the minister finish. Excuse me. We'll let the minister finish. Have you finished, Minister?
I have concluded, Chair.
So the minister will conclude his answer.
He has concluded.
I'm done.
You're concluded?
Good. So, Chair, would you or any of your officials discuss your approach on crypto with the government of the day?
The approach we talk is no different to the approach we take on the whole range of issues we're grappling with in administering the legislation as it is. So we're in continuous dialogue with Treasury, for example, as the primary advisors to the government of the day. We provide regular ministerial briefings of one form or another to the minister. I don't think there's anything particularly remarkable or unconventional in our engagement with Treasury and the government of the day. Our job's to do our best to independently administer complex, very complex legislation. With constant changes in market developments, constant changes in case law. And if I may say so, to return to a really significant theme, we engage a lot with industry. The one we're dealing with at the moment, of course, is the whole crypto sector. And we're trying to listen. There is a lot going on in that sector, and in fairness to significant elements of it, they would like more certainty around the regulation.
Move.
Well, that's a matter for Parliament, but we do have some existing law. And so our job is to do our best to administer the existing law in the most felicitous, efficient fashion.
Yeah. So have you... Sorry.
Just a little follow-up to your questions. So as I take it, your approach to keeping the government informed of your impending draft advice is that it's sort of a no surprises approach for government.
I think that's probably as fair a way as possible, but there's a lot of interaction. I have to say it's continuous between us, ASIC officials and Treasury. So there's no...
but you also mentioned the ministers.
There's a lot of transparency.
It's not just Treasury, though, to be clear. Yeah. You mentioned Treasury and the ministers.
Yeah. And Treasury, of course, their primary role is to advise the minister, and we will sort of seek guidance as to whether it's time for a ministerial briefing. I have regular interactions with Assistant Treasurer Jones. To me, it's a sensible, conventional interation. But if there's a particular concern someone wants to raise, I'm happy to deal with it. But it is no surprises. I think there's a fair way of putting it.
So last question, Senator Bragg, and I'll go to you, Senator McKim. Senator Bragg.
So my question is, have you met with Minister Jones and have you discussed these crypto issues, and what can you tell us about that?
Yeah.
Because I think there's a lot of people who are interested in this, and so they want to know where they want to know what the Parliament's going to do, and that's not a question for you, it's a question for the executive government to explain. And then people are interested in, well, what will ASIC do and how does that all come together? I think it's an entirely reasonable question. So,
well, I meet regularly with Minister Jones. We cover a range of topics, including this one. His office is aware that we're doing this work, as is Treasury. But I really want to stress this work is a continuation of work we've already done. This is an existing information sheet that we're going to update. And that updating in and of itself won't be, how can I put it, fully effective until, as Commissioner Kirkland said, because we really want to do our best to get it right. The way it's going to work is we're going to publish a revised information sheet and allow a reasonable time to go by for industry reaction. We've put a lot of work into getting it right. We've taken expert advice from senior practitioners at the law firms and from industry. So it's a piece of work. There's just so much other work going on at ASIC, but it's in that vein of trying to regulate sensibly.
Very good.
Senator McKim.